For some of our youngest students, does instruction based in rich content, like science, help them learn to read? Such an approach hasn't been studied in depth for early grades where instruction more grounded on basic literacy skills like decoding typically reigns. The Reads Lab at the Harvard Graduate School of Education set out to explore this question. In a recent article, the research team described the creation and impact of a literacy-rich science curriculum for first grade students. This video will describe the MORE program and its impact. The Reads Lab created a curriculum called the Model of Reading Engagement, or MORE. MORE is founded on the belief that content knowledge combined with student engagement will help lead to improved reading comprehension. One key difference between the MORE program and some other approaches concerns the selection of texts that students read. The MORE program emphasizes the use of conceptually related complex texts for all students. This helps build students' background knowledge. For instance, in this study, students read a series of books about animals, which had common themes like survival, adaptation, and ecosystem. Reading several of these books together as part of a coherent unit helps to reinforce and cement the key concepts in students' minds. This builds the background knowledge that will allow students to transfer the concept of, say, ecosystem, which they learned in the context of tundras, to new areas like deserts that were not in the MORE curriculum. Another key aspect of the MORE program is an emphasis on complex texts as suggested by the Common Core and state standards. For students who may have lower reading levels, scaffolds are offered, but the bottom line is that all students receive exposure to rigorous materials. In fact, in this study, we found that students who participated in the MORE lessons read much more rigorous materials, as measured by Lexile level, than students who did not receive the MORE lessons. Again, the MORE program carefully selects texts that enable students to build the background knowledge that is critical to understanding texts they may read later on. Other unique aspects of MORE, like an emphasis on writing and student research and discussion protocols, are described further in the paper or at readslab.org. The effectiveness of the MORE program was studied by a randomized control trial where first grade teachers at 10 schools were randomly assigned to one of two main conditions: to teach the MORE lessons or to continue with typical instruction. MORE is a 10-day curriculum based on the ideas just highlighted. Teachers who were not randomly selected to teach the MORE lessons continued teaching their typical lessons, which were based on a balanced literacy strategy. Here are the primary research questions. Randomized control trials, like the one used to evaluate the MORE program, represent the most rigorous type of research study because they can allow us to determine causation. Our statistical analysis controlled for student pretests, demographic, and school characteristics to be able to better determine the true impact of the MORE program. We found that for the reading comprehension measure, based on the MAPS standardized assessment, students exposed to the MORE program experience greater growth in reading comprehension than their peers, gaining almost 5 points relative to the 2 points for typical instruction. This represents an effect size of 0.11 standard deviations. To see a statistically significant difference on a standardized test after only a 10-day curriculum is notable. And so, related to our guiding question, we can infer that the MORE program, grounded as it is in rich science content, helps students' reading comprehension more than typical district practice. Research indicates that some programs often offer greater help to those students who already have strong abilities, and thus can be thought to contribute to increasing the learning gap between them and students who struggle. We did not find this for the Moore curriculum. For almost all measures, including reading comprehension, the Moore lessons help students equally. In other words, struggling readers benefit just as much as successful readers. Here are some key takeaways from this study. First, this study demonstrates that literacy-based content instruction is effective for younger students. Another implication is that struggling readers who are exposed to rigorous texts can succeed and learn as much as their peers. Finally, concerning scaling the Moore program to other schools and districts, it is important to point out that Moore showed its positive effects by utilizing regular classroom teachers. This highlights the feasibility of expanding the program. Our website, readslab.org, contains further information about the Moore curriculum and our research.